what your take is on this. We saw these pro-Palestinian demonstrators yet again in London, hundreds of thousands in London and in Edinburgh, chanting things, chanting extraordinary things, actually. Yemen, make us proud, turn another ship around. Hands off Yemen, said one banner. Another pro-Palestinian demonstrator blamed the US and Israel for the attacks on October the 7th. So we see all of this happening. We saw hundreds of thousands of protesters gathered at Bank Junction yesterday. This is part of this this global day of action for Palestine, according to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. I don't feel very safe when I see that.
No, these are hate marches. And I think they are now a stain on our democracy. And I don't say that lightly. I am very in favour of protest and the right to free speech. But, you know, and even if we go, what would the tagline of the Houthis, which they are now, you know, people are advocating and supporting, God is great, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, and victory. You know, it is absolutely obscene and horrific things. And I think, you know, lending to what you said earlier, David, young people haven't a clue on the extremities of what they're saying. And the Met Police and the government should have hang their heads in shame because they're allowing such despicable and disgraceful things to be said on our streets, endangering the lives of British Jews. It's unacceptable.
Shouldn't there be zero tolerance of that kind of speech?
No, well, look, I think you'll find a lot of these people on these marches, in my opinion, I would class them as members of the current thing, right? So these are people that, if I reckon...
What, ignorant?
No, as in they, whatever's being pushed, they will back it kind of thing, and without really looking into what they're actually on the street for. And the reason why I say that is because I reckon if you took a lot of them to a side and said, look, we're doing a campaign for women's rights, would you put your name down? They probably, oh yeah, we would. And they said, oh, we're also doing a campaign for gay marriage, would you put your name down? Oh yeah, of course we would. Right, and it's, but what are you doing here? Right, because this is where I struggle to actually find the link, and I think this is really poor education, potentially. Or, I mean, I was listening earlier, and this is a lot on the onus of... We have a public service broadcaster, and they have a duty to inform, to educate.
But the young people are not watching our public service broadcaster. They're really not. They're watching this. And the problem is that the algorithms take them down to see more of what they see.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
So the moment they see some propaganda, and they go, oh, that's interesting, and they read it, the next thing they get is propaganda.
Well,
and so it seems...
Well, I think it's two parts. First of all, we have raised a generation of people in this country, in our education systems, our schools and our universities, who are ashamed of Britain, and you think that we should apologise to the world, and I think that's awful. The second part, and arguably more controversial, is that we have untold numbers of people in this country who we have allowed in who do not share our own values. And that is where I think, you know, as you've said before, David, we are going to an immigration election and actually the identity of our country, because you're right, I don't feel safe with these marches. I would actually argue that some of the things that people are saying, for example, you know, Mohammed El-Kurd, yesterday in the rally, one day will come, we must normalise massacres as the status quo. That was on the stage in Westminster, which both Mary-Lou McDonald and Jeremy Corbyn boasted on that stage.
What do you make of this, Harrison? Zara Sultana, the Labour MP for Coventry South, described Western strikes on Houthi rebels as shameful, deplorable and beyond acceptable. I think she's shameful and deplorable.
I have no time for Zara Sultana. I have had, you know, I've kept my eye on her for quite a while now. She is, anybody who keeps an eye on politics know that she is one of the more despicable members of Parliament. I really, and you know, and
she's an elected representative.
I mean, it's despicable. I mean, it really is. I mean, I think, look, she is... Sorry, Renee.
And more importantly, she's going to be re-elected, most likely, because of her seat. So what does that say about the people who are voting for these people to represent us in Parliament?
Well, I think, you know, again, let's talk. If you talk about the demographics of her seat in particular, it is of a certain persuasion in a sort of a liberal metropolitan city, where that is more akin to have those views in police, and that's quite worrying. That actually we are getting into a divide in our country where our cities and our big areas like Brighton, Bristol, London, Birmingham, Manchester, we're losing identity. Leicester, we're losing identity, and that's, you know, now we're getting people into Parliament who do not share the same views of what parliamentarians
it links beautifully to an article in the Telegraph this morning. Nearly 9 in 10 parliamentary constituencies want to see immigration levels reduced. It goes back to something you and I have spoken about, which is that many people don't recognise the country we're now in. It's changing enormously fast. Now, the polling showed that perceptions of immigration numbers are wildly out of kilter. I find this absolutely extraordinary. So they interviewed thousands of people, this is Onward that did this, and they looked at all of these parliamentary constituencies. Every single constituency wanted tighter immigration, apart from, as you can imagine, Bristol, 55% of voters wanted fewer controls. And 52 of those 75 that wanted fewer controls, 52 of them were in London. So when you look at a map, and I think we've got the map actually that shows you, when you look at the map of the United Kingdom, actually the vast majority of those parliamentary constituencies want to see tighter immigration, whereas London is completely different. What is fascinating about this is when you ask people, how many people do you think have come into this country? The majority of people think it's around 10,000.
Yeah, no, look, and once again, that is the job of the public service broadcaster, to make sure that those are informed of the actual state of the country, whether that is to let people know what they're protesting about or the actual immigration numbers themselves. I think you're right to point out that this election, I think, will be focused on immigration. It will be definitely within the top three. And I think this will be the Conservatives' Achilles heel, unfortunately.
Yes. Do you mean the BBC when you say the country's...
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
These people don't watch the BBC.
No.
Yeah, but just because they don't watch it on terrestrial television doesn't mean that they've advocated their duty.
That's a great... That actually is a very fair point, because I think they might get their information online, where they do look at
the
that.
BBC has many millions of followers on Instagram. They still have ways of... If they really wanted to, ITV have launched something on Snapchat to engage with... There are ways that they can engage with younger audiences, and they're obviously not doing it effectively enough, because if they were educated and informed, they wouldn't be on those marches.
Let's have a look at that map now. So they asked all of the parliamentary constituencies, all the blue ones there that you can see said they want tighter controls on immigration. The red ones want fewer controls on immigration.
There aren't many red ones, I'm pleased to say.
No, there aren't. But
75,
proportionally, remember, you get many constituencies in London as well. This is what I keep saying, which actually this election for me is all about immigration, because then everything underpins from immigration, whether it's schools and housing, everything, the fabric of this country and so on. So I think immigration, whichever party gets on top of immigration and actually says they're going to do something about this and actually follows up with that, I think stands a very good chance in terms of the electorate.
No, for sure, and I think this is one of the reasons why I think the right-wing vote in our country is going to be split, because the Conservatives cannot handle immigration in this country. They can't be trusted to deal with it. It is... we look at that map, and you can see, where we had the Brexit referendum, those parts of the country, the North, the Midlands, where immigration has been really impacted. You can see it right there, that people still...
So what happens... So let me ask you that question then. What happens in the North, particularly those Brexit-backing people in the North, particularly in the Northwest where I was an MEP, they're furious with what's going on. They don't want more immigration. They don't like what Keir Starmer's saying. How are they going to vote?
Well, that's why in a lot of the northern seats, you're looking at reform at 11 to 13%. And even though there's individual candidates, they may not be, let's say, well-known names, it is going to be enough to either wake up the Conservatives and realise that 672,000 a year for a net migration is unacceptable, or they're going to get wiped out the next election, which will, of course, open the door for Labour, but you cannot reward failure.
Can the Conservatives wake up?
Yeah, well, look, I think the Conservatives need to see the Reform are on solid polling at the moment, and actually, one thing I will give Reform is fairly consistent. So they have up their game and where they stand, and I think, look, from a Conservative standpoint, they need to be looking at this 10% that they could be gaining on, and they need to be looking at what's in Reform UK's manifesto. And if I were them, I would just be taking bits out of it, because...
Well, they do all the time.
They do.
But
I
would do it more. I'd keep going. I mean,
but you can't just nick policy. You actually have to follow up.
What that means is, although Reform UK don't have any seats in the in Parliament, it means that they are still a very effective political party, in the fact that they're basically a pressure group to the Conservatives, and I know why you guys keep saying that we're not going to challenge the Conservative election, because it shows that they're you're hard-lined on it, and it shows that
no, it's very simple. The Conservatives betrayed the Brexit Party. That's why they won't do it.
So the question I keep asking is, as the Tory party is not a Tory party at the moment, as anyone believes it, should they stand down for reform at the election?
No, I don't. Because why would they? Because
it's the point.
Why would they? Because hold on. All right, can we just also make the point? All right, fine. It's very nice, obviously, to Reform UK to have all these good policies that probably a lot of Conservatives will like. But there's also the fact that everybody that would be elected in Reform UK, none of them have any actual governing experience regarding to actually leading a country.
Whoa, no. So hold on, no.
Right, final word. I've got to go to a break.
The Conservatives are one of the longest political parties in the world.
Right, doesn't mean they're any good.
No, but it means that it means they didn't just tear them out.
You literally are spluttering because you don't know how to answer that.
Harrison, you've just encapsulated everything. The Conservative Party is full of career politicians who have done their PPE in Oxford and want to, go into have a career in politics. Ordinary people should be the ones running for elections who understand the people in that area, and that is why your party is absolutely screwed in the next election, because people do not trust your political class.
But sometimes it is good to have politicians to be politicians.
Well, not in the last 13 years.
Anyway, I have to go to a break. I have to just pause you just for the moment. We're talking about migration. Some very sad news has just broken. 4 migrants have died trying to cross the English Channel in a boat this morning. We saw 50 come in yesterday. 4 have now died. So, as I keep saying, we have to stop this illegal immigration into this country. We'll talk more about that after this break. This is talkTV.